Date with a Debut is recorded and produced on Awabakal Country, and I pay my respects to all elders past and present and extend that to any First Nations people tuning in. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. On with the show.
I just found it so hilarious how, in the intervening period, between me leaving Orange and me coming back to Orange, Orange had got trendy. And I was like, as someone who'd grown up there, I was like, guys, you don't know the backstory of this town. We're just as bogan as everyone else. So I wanted to, play into that.
Welcome to Date with a Debut, a podcast about debut authors, their incredible books, and their journey to publication. If you're looking for a new author to discover or writing inspiration for your own story and you don't know where to start, this is the place to be. I'm Nick Wasiliev, host of the show, and I'm delighted to welcome another debut author in today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, jump online and give us a thumbs up, a 5-star review. It really helps the show out. If you also want to hear episodes when they drop, be sure to subscribe to Words and Nerds, or you can subscribe to Date with a Debut on Podbean to hear the latest episodes as they drop. Want to support the show more? You can also subscribe to my Patreon in the description to get early access to episodes, book reviews, recommendations, and a whole lot more. Wherever you are listening, thank you for listening to us and supporting the Australian book industry. You can also find any books mentioned in today's podcast down in the description. Before the end of 2024, we had a bunch of really exciting debuts that we missed out on in our last series. So today I'm going to continue diving into those books that came out late last year. And I'm joined by Leesa Ronald, an author, tea drinker, and dancer from Orange, New South Wales. She's won awards through the Poetry Institute of Australia, the Banjo Patterson Poetry Festival, and ABC's Haywire Writing Competition. Her work has been published in Style, Mamma Mia, Health Smart, Woman's Health, and more. And she now works in communications. However, we're here today to talk about her debut fiction, Special Delivery, published by Allen and Unwin, which you can get a copy of right now down in the description. We will discuss some mild spoilers, so I recommend you grab a copy now, or at least very soon. I started off by asking Leesa about her writing habits and how, in writing this book, she discovered the vibrant community of Australia's rom-com writers. Leesa, welcome to Date with a Debut.
Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you for having me.
It's so nice to have you here, and I must admit, while researching the book, I got distracted, as we usually do, because your career is nuts. You've done so much. You've written in so many places. You've worked in media comms. You've had an insane career, and I love particularly in stalking you and your many bylines is that you've used writing and writing fiction as a way to relax and decompress from the general day-to-day of your life. First of all, I just want to know about your writing habits because you seem to have struck that balance of writing and writing books and then also maintaining that busy working life. I'm asking for a friend who also has that similar issue and kind of wants to know how you do it.
Well, I do it so poorly at the moment. But I pretty much, so I write for work. So that's a good way to kind of just practice just getting words on the page and just plugging them out and not being too precious about whether they're good or bad. And then in terms of writing fiction, I just squeeze that into random hours before work, after the kids go to bed. I don't have a set routine at all. In fact, this year I actually have a different routine because I have a part-time role, but it's quite a senior role, and it's a new role for me. And so I've just been so I work Monday to Wednesday, and I just know from pretty much Sunday night to Thursday morning I'm in work mode. So I actually can't do any fiction writing because I don't have the bandwidth to think creatively because I feel like my to-do list for work is just there's so much churn. And so now I'm trying a different approach this year where I just try and squeeze in as much writing as I can, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And when I say that, I've got 3 little kids and life is busy and we've all got extracurriculars and just I also really like to see my friends and my family. So there's increasingly fewer hours in the day. I had a birthday recently and my husband asked what I wanted for my birthday. And I said kind of without hesitation that I would just one of those time turner machines that Hermione Granger has in Harry Potter. I was like, that is what I need. That is just precisely what I need. If you could arrange that, kind husband, that would be awesome for me.
Yeah, come on, man. step up. Like,
I know,
geez,
exactly.
we're not asking for much here. Geez. I love it. And I also love that, before we actually dive into talking about special delivery, that, I think it's important to acknowledge how there's such a fun community of Australian rom-com writers out there. And of course, in stalking you, I know that you've interacted with quite a few rom-com writers who've actually been on the show. Abra Pressler has been, Amy Hutton. Have you got any fun stories about this community? Because I'm not going to lie, every single time I go into hear stories, it's always the rom-com writers or the crime writers who are the people who are really know how to have fun whenever writers meet up.
I know. I have so much FOMO that I live in Orange, so proud Wiradjuri country, that we're so far away from the beach. There's all these cool things happening in Sydney and up and down the coast, but there's and so I see all these things on social media of everyone hanging out and going to book launches and stuff, and I just get intense FOMO. But you're right, the rom-com,
me too.
Yeah. The rom-com community is super fun, and I'm so embarrassing. So when I knew I had my book deal, and I was like, okay, I need to start a social media profile. I'm not great on social media, and so I obviously just tried to follow as many Australian rom-com authors as I could. And then I was just a really creepy person and slid into their DMs. Oh, I loved your book and blah, blah, blah. And people are so generous with their time in that they respond. And, I feel like I've met these people now and they're kind of like mates, even though I've met a few of them at the Romance Writers of Australia conference, and that was really fun to put faces to names and actually hear their voice. But even some that I haven't met, they're so when I signed the contract for my next book deal, and I don't really know any other authors other than these ones I know on Instagram, and I was pretty much DMing them being like, guys, I don't know what to do, is this a good deal, any advice? And everyone was so forthcoming with their knowledge and so generous with that. So they're super fun, but also really supportive and also really intelligent as well, so kind of triple threats.
Yeah, there are so many fantastic. I love. It's one of the things I do love about the creative community is that once you're actually in, authors are very usually vast majority of authors are very, very good with their time. They like to hear about more. They get the journey. It's they kind of understand and respect the hustle, which is good. But obviously, at the time of us recording, special delivery's been out in the world for a little while. It has been around. It has done the rounds. It is, people have reviewed it. People have loved it. People have said a lot about it. What's the reaction been like? Is there anything that surprised you before we dive into talking about this book?
Not so much surprised me. I feel in terms of the sales figures and the process of getting it on the shelves, and I'd done a fair bit of research before that all happened, so I went in with my eyes open. I wasn't necessarily expecting a bestseller, and I also knew kind of what numbers to expect as well. So I've been pleasantly surprised with how that's gone, because the book's had a couple of reprints, which wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. So that was really good. So that stuff's all been fun. I think probably the most surprising bit has been, so I live in Orange, as I've mentioned, and the book is also set in Orange, and I just didn't expect the wave of just support from the community. So I think before Christmas, because there's a Collins in Orange and they helped me organise my book launch, and we sold out all these copies at my book launch, and then they kept ordering more in and they kept selling out, and it was just this wave. I was like, guys, order more. Everyone is buying, and people were coming in and buying 3 and 4 copies. And so I was really conscious in the lead up to Christmas. I was like, there is nothing more that I can do to market my book, because I am putting the hard sell on my friends and family in Orange. They're all buying so many copies, and I thought they'd just find me really annoying, but they were all really supportive, and they still I've got friends, and as soon as someone announces that they're pregnant, they'll go and buy this book for them. And yeah, so that's been so surprising. And then also I wasn't necessarily expecting the random DMs from just other readers that I have no connection to, but that's been such a nice surprise as well.
Yeah, that's the best, because you always forget that in a weird way, there's a bit of a strange analogy, but books like a child. You have it, it's there, it's with you, and then it goes out and has a life of its own in a strange, weird way. And then you don't know who's going to come across that book and where they'll come across it and what it will mean to them. You don't know until people message you and say, oh, I found this book in, I don't know, a random bookshop in Japan or something like that, and there it is, and it's sitting there, which is crazy.
One of the other things, just before I forget, is people's meanings that they find meaning in the book that I hadn't necessarily intended to be in there. So I had one person message me, and I was like, they were like, "Oh, I love how you've included this person, which is a reference to this person," and I was like, "Oh, no, I didn't really mean that, but then maybe my subconscious did mean that." And then another one of my bosses at work, there's like, it's a very generic name, and that was featured in the book. And then someone at work was like, "Oh, and so you put a mention to her in as well?" And I was always like, no, I did not do that. I did not. Please stop, like, try to find, like, references to work in there. Like, there's nothing. But then in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, crap, did my subconscious do that? And I just didn't tweak. So that's been pretty funny.
I love how there's always like that, like whenever we did English at school or whatever, you always like, if you're like getting the meaning out of the books and everything like that. And then like sometimes when you're on the other side of it as an author, you're like, no, that's not what I meant at all. Or something like that.
I know, like a throwaway line, but sorry.
Let's talk about this amazing book. For everyone who is on the YouTube, I've put a beautiful cover up on the screen. Shout out to the cover, which is beautiful. So I am now in the lift. You have come into the lift. It is time for the classic elevator pitch. What is Special Delivery about?
So thank you for the opportunity to do my elevator pitch, which I haven't done in a while. Special Delivery is about a woman called Poppy who finds herself pregnant in circumstances that she wasn't expecting. And so she finds herself, she's moved home to her country, New South Wales hometown. She's single, jobless, pregnant. The only people she really knows in town are her parents, and she's pretty much convinced that her mother is certified crazy. Her best friend is still 300 k's away in Sydney. She hasn't heard from the father of her soon-to-be-born child. And to make things worse, she's got this midwife who just keeps popping up around town because it's a small town, and he is infuriating. So it's about this girl Poppy's journey to kind of find her village, establish herself as a mum, and there's a beautiful love story woven in.
Ding! Made it. Loved it. Perfect.
I know. I feel like every time I do it, I was like, oh, no, I could have done more. But then when you're getting to the end, you just got to wrap it up. You're like, well, it is what it is.
Nah, nailed it. Because at the end of the day, hey, we want people to go and check out the book. So, we're not.
No spoilers.
Yeah, you're not getting that. You're not getting all of it. We're not going to summarize it for you. Go read it. It's good. I think it's important to mention before we actually dive into kind of, the characters, the classic elements of that make it such a fun rom-com. What I really like whenever I have rom-com authors or romance authors or any authors is kind of the unique spin they like to put on, whether it be tried and true elements or to mess with them a little bit and have some fun with it. And I just want to first of all say this is an Aussie as hell book. Not just with the language. There's all the pop culture that where I'm like, oh, I understood that reference. That's a good reference. I like that. But also, and I mean, like you alluded to it beforehand about how the community has really gotten behind the book. But I can see why. It's obvious. You bring Orange to the page. You bring your hometown to the page. First of all, tell me about, seeing as you kind of grew up there, you're rural originally. Tell me about bringing rural Australia into kind of the rom-com genre, but more specifically, Orange into that space.
Thank you for that question. I actually rarely get this question, and I just am so keen to talk about it. So I grew up on a farm outside of Orange, but Orange was our main town that we came into every day. I went to school in Orange, and then I moved away to Sydney for uni. Started my career in Sydney. I met my husband in Sydney, and then we moved back when we had my eldest child into Orange, and I just found it so hilarious how in the intervening period, between me leaving Orange and me coming back to Orange, Orange had got trendy. And I was like, we used to think
it's so weird.
So cool. And now there's all these bougie cafes and wine bars. And it's great. As someone who'd been in Sydney, I was like, great, I can still have all my mod cons and live my best life. But also as someone who'd grown up there, I was like, guys, you don't know the backstory of this town. We're just as bogan as everyone else. So I really wanted to like play into that. And then also Orange is actually just physically a beautiful place. So we've got really clear seasons in Orange. Like summer's really hot. Winter is like horribly cold. Autumn is just dazzling because we've got all these beautiful colours. And so I really wanted to bring the seasonality into it as well. And because I knew I wanted to write like this, a bit of a slow burn rom-com, just going through like the physical landscape was a good way to kind of weave that through. Like, oh, it starts off in summer and then suddenly, you know, she's like, it's freezing and she can't wear her normal outfits outside because she's been in Sydney and she doesn't understand that, like, you know, you need wool and you need thick socks and you need X, Y, Z. So, yeah, it was really fun to do that.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I'm originally from the Southern Highlands myself. And, yeah, people don't get this in Sydney, like, or whatever. Like, every time I go back to Bowral and everyone's like, well, Bowral just feels like an extension of Mossman now because it's, you know, the weekend escape for so many Sydney-siders. I'm like, come on. I remember what it used to be like. I miss the... We didn't have traffic jams on Saturday in town. What is this? Like, the one for me is when I think I went to Mudgee. I mean, like, I'm not like super familiar with Mudgee, but then like there were Pilates studios, multiple Pilates studios. I'm like, is Pilates a thing now in the country? Jesus, what is it?
That way, when I see like Range Rovers or Porsches like driving down the street, I'm like, dude, like, where are you from? Like,
yeah, get out of here. Get out.
And Orange is really like one of those places that people come for weekends, and you can always tell it's always like groups of like 50 to 60-year-old ladies, and they're like all really well dressed, and like they kind of like wander around from shop to shop in groups, and you can always tell you're like, oh, okay, cool, like they're on a girls' weekend. I get what's going on.
We're all a stereotype at the end of the day. We're all a stereotype.
Yeah.
But it is hilarious. Poppy, our main protagonist, our main character, you know, she falls pregnant, you know, at age 30, and then her partner, Patrick, of 9 years, just boo him. Let's boo him. Boo to him. Boo. She moves back to Orange, and you know what I like about here, and I think what's always important to mention, like, this is a hilarious book. This is a heartwarming book, but what is crucial is you need to have that contrast. And what's great about Poppy is like it contrasts with moments of real pain and real anxiety. She's missing her friends. She's missing that livelihood she built for herself. Like, it's 300 kilometers away in Sydney, as you say. And there's the pressure of also, you're about to become a mum. You know, she's a single mum. She's about to go, you know, that's a lot of pressure. Like, she's entering into the other-centered life. It's no longer about herself. It's about her children and everything like that. And also raising a child on her own. What's it like sitting with Poppy? Because, you know, but also her experiences, and then kind of weaving that into like a romantic story and a story of becoming herself.
So, good question. When I started off writing this, I didn't really have the clearest idea of what I was writing. So I'm definitely, you know, when people talk about plotting and pantsing, I was like 1000% pantsing. But I knew that I wanted it to be about a woman with a midwife, and I knew that I wanted to have motherhood as a central part of it, and I wanted the protagonist to be a mum. So therefore she had to be single, because if she had to meet someone, she had to be single. So I knew that was part of it. And then also at the time I was writing it, I was probably very fresh out of early motherhood. Well, I kind of still am in it, but, you know, it was very easy for me to just kind of tap into those emotions, like the fear and the loneliness, but also like parenthood is so funny, and it's like, it's so chaotic, but it's hilarious at the same time. But
yeah,
experience all those emotions in like the space of like 5 seconds. You can be like so sad and then you're so happy. And so I didn't, like, to be honest, it was a very natural writing experience. I didn't really have to force that. And I feel like lots of people maybe with that shared experience would understand that, you know, you can write about the hard stuff, but then suddenly something funny happens and it all kind of flows together. And that's kind of life, to be honest, that, you know, you've got these highs and lows and they're kind of adjacent in every single second of every day. But it was also very, I just wanted it to be authentic as well. Like there's lots of like laughter and hijinks and stuff that go on, but at the same time,
Yes.
most of that stuff can happen. Like it's not out of the question that you'll be walking the baby and then they have a giant poo explosion and then there's like a dog jumping on you or, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
It's a kaleidoscope. Yeah, it's a kaleidoscope, totally. The experiences that you have. And that's good, though, because it means that everyone who's read this book says it's heartwarming and stuff. But I think the reason why people feel like that is because there's such a great contrast with that real stuff and the way you weave it together and manage that balancing act. Of course, let's talk about this midwife, James, who's tasked with helping get Poppy ready to have her baby. I love how so many people have compared him to being a Ken lookalike.
Well, to be fair, I did put that in the book. So.
Yes, that's right. And so, I mean, I'm just like, obviously you think of Ken and you think of like, there's so many different kind of like all the different versions of Ken and everything about it, but it's just Ken, if you get what I mean. But, he's blunt. At first, he's very aloof. He can almost seem a little bit, I don't want to say, no, unlikable is not the word. He's very, he's hard for the reader to understand. But then, of course, as the story grows and progresses, he shows himself to be an extremely kind soul and a caring soul, which leads to that change in that dynamic and that relationship. Tell me about James and tell me about creating that romantic element.
Well, so this is the first book I've written, so first rom-com I'd ever written. And I didn't have I knew he was going to be I wanted him to just be a good person. But then we also needed that kind of like when they get off on the wrong foot, there needed to be a reason for that. But
awkwardness and stuff,
yeah, but I just was like fundamentally, I think there's you read a lot of books these days and like the heroes are really flawed, but they love them anyway. And I was like, I want him to be a little bit flawed, but also I want the majority of him to just be a really good guy. And I think at the start, he's very process driven. He's like, I'm a midwife. I'm, in a position of power. I need to just be like very black and white. I'm not going to lean into any emotions or any feelings. I just have to do my job. And you're not going to get any extra, value from me in terms of that bedside manner. And that was how he kind of coped through the situation. And then as she gets to know him, she realizes that, he's actually a really good guy. And to be honest, he was such a fun person to write because I just got to write, you just think of all the good people that and I just channeled it into this guy. And it's been so funny, the responses I've got from people. People just love him. And I'm like, cool, he's not real. They were like, who did you make him from? He's imaginary, it's fiction. But people are keen to hunt this guy down because he's such a nice, caring guy. So yeah, no, it was fun to write.
I could tell you enjoyed that. I could tell you enjoyed it comes off on the page that he's just so much fun. It's so fantastic. And what else? Another part that I really like, that I think brings so much warmth to it, is that there are so many fun characters around Poppy and James. I mean, of course, there's Dani, her friend, who I feel serves as a really handy comparison point to the life that she had before that she somehow lost, but also just as a good extra foil for Poppy to play off. Oh, her mum, Chrissy. Oh God. Look, okay, I have she's the epitome of the country mum. Do you know what the funny part is? I saw my own mum, except with more golf and less horses. Yes. Chrissy's a chatterbox. I love.
Yeah, it's so funny because so my mum, my first reader was my sister and my sister-in-law, and then I didn't let my mum read it until right at the end of the editorial process. I was like, sorry, mum, it's going to be pretty tight by the time you read it because I just don't want you reading things unnecessarily. And mum was terrified. Everyone was like, is the mum your mum? And I was like, well, no, but also, yes, she's also my mum and my aunties and my neighbor and every single kind of one of these characters I know all channeled into one. And it's so funny how many comments I've got from everyone being like, oh my God, it's my mum. Did you base this on my mum? And I'm like, no, I think our mums are just all the same. They're all a little bit crazy. and a little bit like the EQ's a bit patchy, but then sometimes they're pinpoint. But I loved writing the mum. That was such a, like, for me, it was a really, like, when I became a mum, I had this whole realization, like, oh, I've, like, been annoyed, you know, like your mum frustrates you or whatever, but then you become a mum, you're like, oh, she did this for me. Like, she looked after me from the time, like, it was just a real perspective shift for me. And I really wanted that to come through because it's such a beautiful, special, like, changing of relationship. So, yeah, but Chrissy was a scream. She was really fun.
Yeah, I love the scene where, like, as a gift after the birth of Poppy's child, she gives Poppy hand-me-downs, and, like, I got it. I read it all immediately. Like, you get it. It's like, it's the practical approach that people take in the country, and it is so clearly done with love because they're trying to, like, think about, like, something that can be of use to you and, like, really helpful, and it's something really practical that can be used, and you get it, and it's done with love, but at the same time, it's hand-me-downs.
I know. That's one of my favourite lines in the book. It's like, and I'm going to have to wear her things from rivers. And
yes, I just... yeah, I like it, it's just the inner Southern Highlands boy in me came out and went, oh, I know exactly what's going on there. It's so true. Yeah, but there's also obviously the next door neighbor, there's Mary, and then, of course, I mean, we'll keep this part very spoiler-free, but there's also an old school friend, Henry, who also returns here. This collection of characters is so much fun. And I'm not surprised that, like, people are going, like, particularly in Orange, who would be like, oh, that's me, or that's based on somebody else, or whatever, like, because the actual habit, these people who inhabit Orange are just... they bring so much of the light and the heartwarming elements to the background of this story, which is so fantastic.
Thank you. No, they were both, like, Mary has been, like, such a, like, there's been such a response to Mary, the older, like, 89-year-old neighbour, and then Henry as well. It's funny as well because writing him, I was really clear that I wanted him to be a character, like, actually, to be fair, like, I started writing it and I was like, there'll be this character. Like, they were all there from the start. They're not like add-ins that came in during the editing process. They were all there from the start. And I never kind of really knew what was going to happen with Henry as well. I just kind of had to keep writing. But I just wanted, like, I also just wanted him to be a really good person. But like all of them, they're good people, but they just, like, everyone makes a few mistakes here and there. So, yeah, super fun.
Yeah, so much fun. And, like, it's a great book. Like, there's so many lights and shades. There is humor. There are honest challenges to contrast. We won't go into any more spoilers. We'll kind of leave it there because naughty. But now the book has gone out and it's having a life of its own. It's going out to the readers who want to. Where does it sit for you now? And more to the point, also additionally, what did this book teach you? Like, you know, from your very experienced background, what was writing this and actually putting something fictional out into the world? What did that teach you, and where does it sit with you now?
To be honest, so when I started writing this, it was definitely started as a hobby. I wasn't like someone who ever was like, it's my life goal to write a book and have a book published. It was like I started as a hobby and I kept going because I was having so much fun. And then it was kind of like when I started to get to the tail end, I was like, oh yeah, maybe I could get this published. Like, so I think if anything, like, on reflection, because now I've, like, written a second manuscript and I'm starting to write a third, and I'm like, it gave me a lot of confidence that actually you don't have to try to, like, I don't have to try too hard to try and write a good book. I'm like, I don't want that to sound like I'm heaps full of myself, but I kind of wrote it and it all just flowed out and it was very easy, and it was just a super fun process. And I think that probably taught me to just enjoy the process and write what I want to read as well, because I went into this with purely selfish, like, aims. I was like, there's no books about motherhood. There's no rom-coms about motherhood that I've come across. And there's nothing that reflects my awesome childhood, that I wanted to bring that sense of nostalgia, like, you know, going to the country races and, like, going out to the dam and, like, drinking around a campfire with your rums or whatever. So I just pretty much just wrote what I wanted to write. So it taught me that's an important part of the writing process, is just to enjoy yourself and just do what you want. and I wasn't really thinking of the market or anything like that or how it would be received. In terms of the writing itself, like what did it teach me? Well, I now know a lot more about fiction writing than I did before when I started. I pretty much learned on the go. I would go for I've mentioned this before, I would go for walks and be like, suddenly like listen to this podcast about writing, and authors would be talking about their scene length and stuff like that. And then I'd suddenly be like, oh crap, how long's a scene supposed to be? So then I'm like quickly Googling like, how long's a scene? And anyway, it was very much just like writing, like learning as I went. Yeah, so they're probably the main takeaways for me.
I like that. I like I like that it gave you a lot of good learning, and it gave you a lot of like a feeling, not just the feeling of nostalgia, but particularly I think the best lesson from all that kind of I can pull out of all of that is write something that you yourself want to read, which I think is kind of the universal. Some people and some authors and writers will go, oh yeah, look, I've got this really crazy in-depth story that's deep in my head and bottled up, but I don't know if there'd be interest in it. And it comes back to a great quote from, I think it's Margaret Atwood, in like she did like a masterclass. She said, there is an audience out there for your book. No matter what it is, no matter what the context is, there is an audience out there for your book, which is effectively just to write, which I think is the best sort of learning you can get as a writer. I think it's the best sort of thing you can pick up.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I've been thinking about that recently, like thinking about the next book that I'm going to write. And then I think it also depends on the stage of life you're in, what you can write. So I've got a couple of ideas at the moment, and one of them is an idea that I really, really want to read. Like I want someone to do it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be me writing it, but I want someone to write about it because I want to read it and be like, yes, all these things that I've been thinking, I want to see that in a book and I want to see that explored. And quite often it's those like thornier issues that aren't black and white. You want to see someone explore the grey. But at the same time, in terms of like my writing capacity at the moment, I'm like, that's some deep stuff that I would have to sink myself into. And at the moment I'm like, do you know what? That is a writing task that I don't necessarily know I have the time and capacity for at the moment. So should I just make my writing super fun? And like if I aim to continue as I started, writing was just a hobby and I did it because it was fun and I just loved it. It's funny, like I've got this big, like deep idea, but I'm like, I just don't know that I'm going to sink into that just yet. I think I'm just going to go on like just do the fun stuff. And I think the depth and the like deeper themes, they come through anyway because of the way different people write. I think I'm someone that, I love the comedy, but then also it's got to be grounded in realness, and it's got to be like, I think just by nature, romance isn't that flippant. It actually deals with a lot of complex themes. So anyway, that's just me talking around in a circle, but it's interesting to know, like there's things that I really want to read, but I'm like, maybe I'm not the person to write that. Maybe someone else, or maybe it's not the time for me to write that now, but that time will come.
What's next? So I know you've just said you've got a second manuscript. Is more books coming?
Yes. So that'll be out. Book 2 will be out this December. And so I've done the structural edits. And so my copy edits are coming up in April. And then obviously I'll have the proof edits. So book 2 is in train. And then I'm going to hopefully submit a third manuscript by December as well. So there's lots going on, but I have so many ideas. That's what I mean. It's like such a, it's a blessing and a curse to have so many ideas. I'm like, what am I going to hone in on? But I think I'm kind of narrowing in my focus on like what I'm going to do. So pretty much, yeah, I'm just writing as much as I can, which is sometimes not much. Sometimes I squeeze in more hours, and just balancing that around, the chaos of just general life, which is, consistently at a high level of chaos.
Love it. It's the realities of balancing being a mum, doing work, and having to try to be an author. I get it. Yeah,
well, it's like everyone. I was thinking about that today because I was like, I've only got my 2 eldest are now at school, so I've only got one at home with me, and that on paper sounds easier, but then it's not necessarily easier. Like everyone's busy. It's all very, it's a universal experience, busyness in general.
We'll finish off with some rapid fire questions. It's a part where I fling questions at you and you have to give me the first answer that comes to your head. So
okay, this is actually quite dangerous for me because I just have verbal diarrhea quite often. So I'll see how we go.
I've caught you.
Yeah.
No, it's I want to do it. But we'll start off with reading habits because I know on top of being, if you're someone who likes to write, usually you also like to read. What's your favorite book that you have read in the last 12 months?
My favorite book, probably The Wedding Forecast by Nina Kenwood.
She's great. I haven't read that one, but I do love Nina Kenwood's work.
Yeah.
It's
a real pearler. I highly recommend. I'm like sad that I didn't write it myself. I'm like, I read it, I'm like, nailed it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. What's your favorite debut novel that you have ever read? Ever?
Ooh. I don't even know. Can I choose Beach Read by Emily Henry? It wasn't her debut because she did YA before that, but that was her first rom-com.
Oh, that counts because we're flexible. We can do Emily Henry is amazing.
She is like my shining northern star. Like I just think she's a legend. Or she is a legend. Not that I know her, but from what I pick up and what I read.
Yeah. Do you want me to make you so jealous?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to do. I have. I had to do a. I'll probably cut this out of the podcast, but I had to do a a streaming event with Booktopia because that's where I was working at. A few years ago, and I had to do a crossover event with Emily Henry and Taylor Jenkins Reid. So it was just the three of us. So it was
cool.
So it was those two talking about each other's books to each other. And they're massive fans of each other too, and they're both really sweet, nice people. So it's book talk exploding in your head sort of situation.
Yeah.
And then it was just little old me as well.
That is so cool. That is so cool. That is a good flex. Keep that in the podcast if you want
to. Do you have a favorite romantic trope?
I have lots, probably. I love enemies to lovers because I love the banter. Like, I just think when there's like that real conflict dynamic, I love the banter. That's probably why I've written so many enemies to lovers tropes. And then I love friends to lovers because I just love nice people getting together. I feel like that's a really just in life, I really like that. And they're probably, I would say, my big ones. I don't have one bed or, those micro tropes. I have no thoughts for or against for those. I'm like, oh, cool, they pop up, but also whatever.
I love that.
I just and I feel like I try and write really authentic things in some of those tropes. I'm like, I just don't know how authentic it is that you rock up to a hotel and there's only one bed and you both have to share it. Like, would that happen? I'm not quite sure that maybe with my ex-colleagues if I would have ever done that. Actually, that's a hard no.
Yeah, it's a massive no. Like, what the hell? You have admitted that you have, quote, a lifelong love of words and an enduring fear of hard labour, which is no mean feat to do when you are living in country New South Wales. What were some of the creative ways you would try to get out of doing sheep work?
Homework. I was very big. I was like, I have homework. And because I was the eldest and so mum and dad weren't really kind of across what levels of homework year 9 kids were doing. I was like, that's homework. And actually hours of homework. So literally the rest of my family would go down to the sheep yards and help. And I'd just stay at home. And to be fair, I would do homework. I would study and stuff. But I remember one time they came back from lunch and I'd eaten a whole loaf of white bread with Nutella. I'd just been doing my homework, having some Nutella on bread, and I came back and they had no bread for their sandwiches and I was in lots of trouble.
Oh, God.
So, maybe that's my dual response, homework, and I was just raiding the fridge while everyone else was out.
Love it. Do you have a favourite word?
Word?
Yeah, favourite word.
I'm one of those people within the group, everyone would be like, oh, yeah, that's a you word, Leesa. That's a you word. I think I say, random things like cool. I would say that all the time. I say legend all the time. I say leggy a lot. Really basic words, probably. I say, and also when I'm writing, I'm so comfortable with using a lot of just and a lot of like, because I do use a lot of those words in my life. So I always put them in, and they probably get pulled out a bit in the copy editing stage, but I'm like, oh, well, we're going with authenticness in this dialogue. So yeah, I'm not too precious. Yeah.
It's part of the lingo, yeah. Who is one author in the Australian romance community that you think is being slept on? Not like that, but being slept on.
So that's like waiting to blow up?
Underrated, in your opinion?
Oh. I don't know, because I feel like I rate all of them fairly highly. Well, this is like not, well, I don't know, but this is my thoughts. Claire Fletcher. I don't know if you've read her books, like 5 Bush Weddings, and it's getting made into a movie. So it's obviously not that slept on. But I read that and I was like, this is like a seminal Australian text. Like, I just thought that was such an awesome book. It's basically about this wedding photographer who goes to all these different bush weddings, but all the relationships reflected in the book, they're all really diverse. So like you might think of like bush weddings as being like, you know, all very same, but there's, you know, same-sex couples, there's people of different backgrounds and nationalities and age gaps. And it was just really, I thought it was so beautifully done. So yeah, go Claire Fletcher.
Love it. You're a self-confessed tea drinker?
Yes.
What's the go-to tea? What is the go-to tea?
Just, this is boring, but English breakfast, but then I have it with soy milk. And like I would say, true. Yeah, it's very delicious. So I stick to that. And it's actually really cool. There's cafes around town and they just know my order. And one time I rocked up, there's this one particular cafe that has good Wi-Fi, and I go there sometimes and just sit on my laptop and write. And I rocked up one time and then my tea just arrived without me having even ordered it. And I just had this moment with the barista being like, thank you. Like, I see what you did there, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, he was on the wavelength. He knew exactly what was needed, and you didn't even have to say it. You have admitted you are an excellent dancer. This is you giving me what dance moves can you do?
So I think when I say admitted, I would say I have proclaimed I am an excellent dancer, and there are lots of people from my uni days who would like severely discredit that theory, but I aim to be an excellent dancer, and I am very enthusiastic. That is what I add to my dance moves. I love having kids because like I feel like I'm just indoctrinating them that like dance parties are a thing. So we'll turn up the music and all have a dance, and they think that's really like, I love that they're growing up thinking that that's probably what everyone's household does. Anyway, when their friends come over, sometimes I get these looks from these 5-year-old boys being like, not cool. Not cool, Mrs. Ronald.
Come on, boys. Get in the dance. Yeah. Dancing's good. Dancing's good for you. Last question. Final question. Are you happy?
Oh, yes. That's quite a deep question.
I know. It was too deep, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, I listened to another podcast. I don't know if you've come across it, called Are You Happy? And I was reflecting on this actually just yesterday, and I'm very happy. I'm very grateful. I've got like a beautiful family. I live in such a beautiful community with so many friends, and I feel very smug about it sometimes that, you know, all my friends are 5 minutes away and I don't have to like plan, because I'm not a great planner. I don't have to actively plan very hard to see all my mates and see my family. But at the same time, tempering my happiness, I am very, very tired at the moment. There's just so much going on. I think work is really intense at the moment. And then I've got these thoughts bubbling away in my head about what book I'm going to write, how I'm going to find the time to do that. So I think two things can be, you know, true at once. But no, I'm so lucky. I have the best life, and live the dream pretty much.
Leesa is happy. Leesa is doing all right. And even though she has stories bubbling in the back of the head, that means at some point they'll have to come out, because it'll be so annoying if they just stay there forever and just drive her up the wall. So that's how we know there will be more, because she has to get them out of her own head.
I know. Or just like the word vomit comes out in Word document form.
Yeah, I love it. Leesa, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been so much fun chatting with you on Date with the Debut. Special Delivery, her amazing book, is published by Alan and Unwin. And for all of our listeners, go and get a copy. It's out. It's out there in the world. It's a rom-com. What else could you want from it? It's a hell of a lot of fun. But thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. And all the best. Excited to see what comes next.
Cool. Thank you very much, Nick. It's been super fun.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Date with a Debut, and for listening to the Words and Nerds channel. You can buy all books mentioned in today's episode down in the description box, and if you enjoyed the show, drop us a review, leave us 5 stars or a thumbs up. It really helps the show out. If you want to hear episodes when they drop, be sure to subscribe to Words and Nerds, or you can subscribe to Date with a Debut on Podbean to hear the latest episodes as they drop. Want to support the show more? You can also subscribe to my Patreon in the description to get early access to episodes, book reviews, recommendations, and a whole lot more. Catch you soon! Date with a Debut is a Words and Nerds and Breathe Art podcast co-production.